Well, welcome back. It hasn't got a great deal warmer, it has to say. And the one thing, before I introduce this wonderful man, Scott Mackenzie, I've found one important thing. This is not Labrador proof. There you go. He wants to eat it. There you go. Without further ado, Scott Mackenzie is a salmon casting god. I hate salmon, but I quite like casting, and if I want to be shown how to cast properly, it's always Scott I look up to. So he's going to take you through his own range of rods, which I've just tried the 10 foot and it's exquisite actually. But I'm not going to go yabbering on. I'm going to pass this over to Jonathan Tomlinson over here to yabber on even more.
Well, thank you once again, Charles. I'll just get myself clipped in. Morning, Scotty. Nice to see you.
Yeah, yeah. Great to be back with the world's been a crazy place since we were last here almost 3 years ago. But thankfully we're getting back to normal. I jumped on the first flight out of Inverness this morning and then got a taxi here from Inverness to here at just over 2 hours. So that can't be too bad. So definitely world is getting back to normal for sure.
So we've got a range of stuff in front of us.
We do indeed. Plenty of toys.
I love it. I love a toy. So where are we going to start? I've got one of Mr. Proctor's favourite rods.
You do, yeah. It's a 10-foot 4-weight Nx1, and one of the lines we designed, the Nx1 single-handed lines that came out last year, which have gone exceptionally well. What I'm thinking today, because we've got a lot of kit to go through, we actually now do more single-handed rods and double-handed rods, and in fairness, Mackenzie brand, when it was established by myself back in 2007, it was probably fair to say that it was classed more as a kind of salmon brand, with me being a former gilly spey casting champion. But nowadays I've built a fantastic team around me. Andrew Toft, another world champion, Paul Proctor, probably the best trout fisherman in England, Europe, and maybe even the world. So I've got some fantastic guys working around me. So the design team at Mackenzie is really special. It really is. So with that, we've got rods in the single-handed rods from an 8-foot 3-weight right up to 10-foot 7 weights. The one that you've got there, GT, is a particular favourite of mine and Paul's. It's a 10-foot 4-weight. It's an Nx1 rods. It's our nanotechnology rod. And it's a beautiful rod. It really is. The whole range. We also do a range with the FX1 rods. We were the first company in the world to come out with double-handed rods using a material called graphene. Graphene is the lightest, strongest material known to man. The two professors that discovered graphene actually won the Nobel Prize for Physics for discovering graphene at Manchester University. We started using it back in about 2014. We launched the rods, I think it was 2015. And to be honest, we never ever looked back. We really haven't. And what the graphene does, it makes the rods lighter, stronger, kind of that's a given. But it also speeds up the recovery for the blank. And I'm going to show you when we move on to the double hander shortly what that does. And fly casting is a projectile sport. So if the rod tip moves quicker, your line moves quicker. If your line moves quicker, then you're going to cast easier. You're going to get that distance you would normally get with less effort, or by using the same effort a little bit more, you're going to throw it a lot further. So it's not always about distance, but there is times when you do want that little 5 yards extra. So we start at the very bottom, GT. We've got the 10-foot 4-weight Nx1 with the Nx1 lines. We come out with the trout lines, single-handed lines last year, and they have been a huge success for us. They really have. These were mainly the design of Paul Proctor and Andrew Toft, who are, well, most people will certainly know these guys. They're world class. They really are. And these lines have gone really well. They're supple. They turn over well. They're well tapered. They're absolutely perfect. Here just now, it's not ideal. Normally the wind is blowing this way. Typically when we go to film, it's blowing in our faces. But if you see there how that line is turned over, even into quite a strong wind, it's only a 10-foot 4-weight and it's turning over perfectly into the wind there.
So there's no particular sort of special leader on this, is it? It's just it's
a bit of nylon,
Maxima.
20-pound Maxima and a bit of wool. So you haven't even got the weight of a fly to help take it out or nothing. So yeah, we do them in a 3-weight, 4-weight, right up to 7-weight. very, very popular. And not expensive, $49.99. So very, very affordable.
Great bang for your buck.
Absolutely.
And nice that, you know, two-tone as well, which you normally find that price point, it's a single colour.
Yeah,
so having a dual colour just makes life that little bit easier for finding where that loading point is.
Absolutely, and double looped as well, and it's just a really nice, well put together bit of kit. It really, really is. So that's the sort of the single hander, and then so we do the single handers in both the NX1 and the FX1 in our graphene models, and let's say originally we were probably known as a double handed brand, but increasingly more we're very much breaking into the single-handed market.
Now, I'll throw in a question there, because I know that obviously Paul had a lot to do with these rods along with Andrew.
Yep.
And your NX1s, there's a lot of river rods inside of the sort of range.
Absolutely. We went from an 8-foot 6.3 weight right through to 10-foot 7, which is a still water rod, obviously. But yes, we've got a ranges within the NX1 range that Paul and the rest of the design team put together. There's a 10 for a 3, 10 for a 4. These seem to be getting really, really popular. Growing up as a kid in the Highlands of Scotland, we were always sort of a 9-foot 5 weight, 6 weight.
The standard.
Standards, yeah. And now we're seeing that people are fishing longer rods and lighter lines as well. Hence where we've taken out the 10 for a 4 here. Just a lovely, nice bit of kit.
Yeah, and I mean, I've spent an awful lot of time following Paul around the north of England and into Scotland, using these rods and irritatingly watching him catch 4, 5 and sometimes even 6 pound brown trout. And you know, this 4-weight rod, I've seen him bend it, hoop it double, and land some cracking fish. But this has obviously been a really popular range of rods, and I know that the graphene, the FX1s, in the single handers. Have you got any plans for the longer, lighter rods to come in the FX1s at some point? Yeah.
What we found on the graphene, it didn't work just as well, because it makes the rods the tip action a little bit faster.
Okay.
And I don't think you always want that with the 3 and the 4 weights.
You want the protection for the light tip.
Absolutely. So we've kind of not really taken them out in that. But we have got plans to keep developing the graphene in all rods. So kind of watch the space to a certain extent. We never say never, but at the moment you know, we're growing with Paul, but he is exceptionally good and really knows the stuff. So he's a hard man to please too, because there's no grey. It has to be right before he puts his name. And that's the philosophy of Mackenzie. We're always at the forefront of tackle and innovation, likes the graphene, and for us equally, there's no grey area. It has to be. It's either right or it's wrong, and we don't put anything out to where we're happy putting our name on it.
No, and your NX1s have come in at a really nice price point as well.
Absolutely, in the sort of £300 to £400 bracket, which is not expensive for the single handers.
Sadly, in modern day times, that's not in the slightest bit expensive.
No, it's not. So what I might do now is just move on slightly to another very popular rod that's online, GT, if we can. If you wind that in, buddy.
I'll bring that in.
Yeah, please. We're moving on to the Switch now. I probably get asked as much now about Switch rods as any other product. We really do. It's grown hugely over the last, certainly over the last 5 years. It's been on the go a long time, but 5 years. Would you say 5 years? You'll see that here. A lot of people may be asking for Switch stuff as well.
I think when they first came out, it was finding a line to match them, whereas there weren't many lines to go with a Switch rod, so people end up spending a lot of money on trying different things. Now you can buy an off-the-shelf line, which works perfectly with a Switch rod. Absolutely. We came up with this line. This is our biggest selling product. It's our Nx1 Switch Line. We launched it last year, and it's now our biggest selling line out of all the lines. It really is, because we did find that there's still a lack of a good affordable switch line in the market. Again, $59.99. It's a twin coloured line, and it's almost like a spay line in a lot of ways, like a single tapered line. There's it coming from there. You'll just see the colour change coming in there, and you would take, as with all lines, you would take the colour change about the tip of the rod, and this is just a 35-foot head, 25.5 grams, a 7-8 weight. We have got plans to probably do an 8-9 weight. We're getting asked a lot to do slightly heavier line weights in the switch rods as well.
but you know, for on the rivers, when you think that unfortunately a train behind us, guys, we kind of, you thank British Rail for this one at the moment. If you can still hear me, I'll go a little bit closer. So the switch rod, yeah, really popular, and increasingly popular. Bridges that gap between the double hander and the single hander. And if you're going to some of the rivers for salmon, sea trout, it's just a little bit more finesse in it.
Yeah, and I think you know, low water fishing in particular, small spate rivers. You still need enough mass to be able to turn over a bigger fly, deal with a bit of wind, and of course Iceland. You know, it's a few hours up the road, and you can be there and fishing in a day. A lot of smaller rivers. We've sold an awful lot of switch rods for Iceland.
Yes,
and as you say, it perfectly fills that gap between your traditional 10-foot 7 weight or 10-foot 8 weight single hander, and then into your 13 and a half, 14-foot salmon rods. It's just that perfect bridge in between.
Absolutely, and that was something that was always lacked, because you thought, I'll take my salmon rod or I'll take out my single-handed rod, and it was always, you were overgun with one and undergun with the other.
More than that, and that's where the switch comes in.
Absolutely, and we encourage people to go down this route. It really is. I don't play golf, but someone likened it, and I think it's quite good to. I think it's a golf club. It's a get with trouble club.
Hybrids.
It's sort of thing, and it's when you get in the rough and do all these things. I liken it to that, where years ago you never had one, but see, when you've got one, you'll use it all the time. You really will, you know. This particular model's FX1, 11-foot 2. 7/8. This is the 4-piece. We actually do this in the Nx1 Atlas. Atlas is the name we give to all our 6-piece rods. So the Atlas would probably finish about here, and it's ideal for travelling with.
It just makes life so much easier. I mean, now any kind of longer rod, 6-piece is kind of everyone's go-to now, because it was great in the days where you could fly from here to Scotland and you get an extra piece of equipment for free, and then the airlines all twigged onto this, and then it's, well, you can fly from here to there and it's 125 for Mr. Mackenzie, but you want to check in a rod, it's £75 each way.
Absolutely.
So being able to put it into your check-in bag rather than paying for an extra item, it only takes a few trips to Scotland and you bought yourself a new rod. Absolutely.
Couldn't have been, absolutely. It really is. So the 4 and the 6-piece in all rods nowadays is, and there's no loss of action. That's one of the things people say to me. You'll see that, because you've got all the rods out on the platform all the time. There was a time when, yes, okay, you sacrificed a little bit for a 6-piece, but not now. In fact, people would say some of our 6-piece are better than the 4-piece.
Blindfold someone, you'll never tell. And I think the problem still is that some people think of it as being a 4-piece rod that they've just decided to cut into 6, rather than a rod that's been designed from start to finish to be a 6-piece rod. So all those sort of, flat spots, extra weight, it's all changed now. Everything's balanced and made so that 6-piece rod is every bit as good as the old 3s or 4s, if not better than they ever were, and the convenience of going straight in a bag.
Absolutely. And also, we see a lot of people buy them just even having the car, because for security. So say you're staying away from home, you're fishing, and if you've got these long rod tubes, and unfortunately the world we live in, at times people see a rod tube, they know what's in your car,
they twig it.
So having even a 6-piece rod, even in the UK, is really good, because you can hide it in the boot or in the car.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly that. It really is. So this is the switch. Very easy, comfortable to use round, even in the wind. There, you're getting that line to turn over. Oh, caught the line going forward a wee bit there.
Now with this line, Scotty, would you class this as being a short shooting head or a very short spay line, or is it kind of a bit of both?
I would put it more in the short spay line, because I'm probably from that heritage a wee bit, and that's what we thought. But it's probably nearer. It is, because I was going to say it might be more like a shooting head, but it is and it isn't. And I say that because it's got more finesse than the shooting head coming down. So it's got the finesse of a spay line, where you're getting that lovely
the loading
taper.
of a slightly shorter shooting head.
But the loading of a slightly shorter. So you've got maybe a wee bit of a very short hybrid here. Because when you're using a rod like this, certainly for me in Scotland, I'm looking for a little bit of stealth, a little bit of presentation, a bit quieter. If you're using a rod this size, there's normally a reason for that. And it's probably the rivers are low, you're maybe out early in the morning because it's, you know, the sun's about to get up, and you want that wee bit of stealth
Clear
going
water,
down.
small flies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All that.
On the end of this, would you ordinarily look to put something on the end of it, or would you just put your leader on the end of it?
A lot of the time I would just have a leader, because again, when you're fishing a rod like this, you are fishing normally in the summertime, low water, warmer water conditions. But if you want, this line will turn over very easily a poly leader or a big fly. So I know some of the rivers up in Scotland at the moment, some of the people are fishing in the smaller rivers with this setup with a poly leader and a small sort of tube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it will turn over. Anything we make, it's important that you make practical fishing things. There's no point in making a lovely line that casts it, goes, but won't turn over a poly leader or a big fly.
Yeah. Or deal with a bit of wind.
Or won't deal into wind like we're doing there. So we could easily cast that way and make ourselves look really good, but we're deliberately casting into the wind, so to make it authentic, if nothing else. So it's you're always looking for something that's subtle, that's going to turn over and land gently, but it's still got just that energy to turn over that poly leader and big fly if needed, you know. So that's a
big fan of switch rods.
Yeah.
It's very much changed the whole setup for a salmon angler. You know, if someone came in the shop and said, "I've never salmon fished before now, kit me out with everything I need," they'd get a 10-foot 7-weight single hander, they'd get a 7 or 8 weight 11.5 foot switch, and then probably a 13.7, 13-foot 9, 9.10 6-piece rod.
Yeah.
And for 99% of their fishing, that'll probably just about cover them, rather than the days of a 12, a 13, a 14, a 15.
Yeah.
You know, it's made life a lot easier for salmon anglers.
Absolutely. So we'll just move on. We'll just grab one of the next thing we've got on the
brings us nicely
list
onto
here.
full-on salmon rods.
It does indeed.
Let's get that out of the way.
Some would say, Mackenzie, you're now going to take out a proper rod, Babble, because I know there's a lot of single-handed viewers.
Many would say we've just put the proper rods away, the single-handed ones. So.
Now, there's my phone. Listen to self. Always switch off phone before you go live on telly.
As they say, never work with children or animals.
Well, it's not good enough.
Can't talk. I'm on a casting platform doing a live demo.
Yes. So here we've got just two rods very quickly, because we're running out of time a little bit. So we've got the Nx1 double hander. We do this in both a 4-piece and a 6-piece. Anything you ever see called Atlas, Nx1 Atlas, Graphene Atlas with FX1 range is what we generic name we give to our 6-piece rods in the 4. And then this leads me on to actually what we've got here is the Graphene double hander, and I've taken out the 6-piece. There's a 13'7" and it folds down to that.
Probably the most popular of your rods we do. At 13'7".
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. The biggest problem I've got with that is keeping them in stock. It really, really is.
Even more so the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And then with people now getting back to travelling and everything again, or again just for easiness and everything in the car, the 13'7", it's a great size. What we found is over the years, you know, 10, 15 years ago, you weren't a proper salmon fisherman unless you were up in Scotland with a 15-foot rod in your hand.
And a 65-foot head.
I once tackle tested for trout and salmon, did it for a few years when we were reviewing all the tackle. And the first time we ever did it, they had different lines on test, and I voted the best one on test was the 75-foot, it was called the Mastery Spade for Scientific Angler at the time. And to be honest with you, we wouldn't produce a line. We couldn't, you know, that was based on test, encouraging people to buy. Now you couldn't give that line away, to be honest with you. You couldn't, 75-foot, it's way too heavy.
We've seen such a change in people's buying habits.
Yeah.
And particularly when, I mean, from a teaching point of view, when I first started here, 14 years ago, we were throwing 65-foot spey lines.
Yeah.
And if you had somebody come along to do their very first lesson, never picked up a double hander before, trying to pick up, lift, manoeuvre and manipulate 65-foot of fly line was an absolute nightmare. So it was, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 hours. Some people just never get that. But now with, you know, these shorter lines, they're much easier to lift and manoeuvre. And within an hour or 2 hours, you could feasibly put someone on a salmon river and they stand a chance of putting a fly in the right place and catching a fish.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even I saw that exactly that through my gillying days, was that you knew what kind of the same guests each year, Mr. and Mrs. So could cast. And when the short-headed spey lines first hit the market, suddenly they were getting, you know, on a Monday morning, because they hadn't maybe fished for a year.
Rusty.com.
A wee bit, you know, they hadn't done it for a while. And in order to take a wee while getting back into it, and suddenly, even on a Monday morning, getting a line, I go, what's this, you know? And from a gilly point of view, that's fantastic, it really was. And just the way that the rods and the lines have gone, we have come down in length, like DT was saying there. 13.7 is probably now our biggest seller. We do these from in the graphene range, 12.7, 13.7 and 14-foot 9-inch, with the 13.7 probably fitting you would see that, GT, that sort of length of rod is probably the most popular nowadays.
And the setup you've got on here, Scotty?
So the setup I've got here is just one of our reel, just a normal reel, nothing too fancy. And what I've put on here is one of our new shooting heads. This is the shooting heads with running line attached. We've got new spey lines coming out, the NX spey lines. We've got new shooting heads coming out, and we're also, for the first time, first time in a long time, because we used to do one many years ago, but only a 1011 model with a shooting head with a running line attached. Now we're going to do it through all models, 8, 9, 9, 10 and 1011. What we're finding is that a lot of people are fishing sort of kits, multi-tip kits and stuff like that, and where they like, and also some people like to have different running lines on the back. But also, if you're fishing in Scotland, or I say Scotland, any river, can be anywhere in the world, it can be a little bit annoying if you're having to strip line in, that you get dink 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 going through the rod rings a little bit, and so we're going to introduce a range of the NX. We're going to call this line the Integra, because integrated, Integra, and this I think is going to be a very, very, very popular line. It really, really is. I'll give you a wee shot of that, GT. So this is on our graphene rod, the FX1 Atlas graphene.
So lengthwise on this one,
the length of that, so you've got the 910 head on that, and I think that's something about just over 12 metres in length. You can see there, even right into the wind, absolutely no problem at all. So again, this is like a little bit the switch line there. You've got the kind of the benefit of the shooting head, but yet because it's got no join in it, you can fish at all ranges. So if you're maybe stripping in a fly, maybe like a collie dog or a sunray shad or something like that, and you're taking it quite close to you, it's not a problem. You're not getting that line kind of make that kind of dinky noise going through the rings, which can be a little bit annoying. With the way loops are nowadays,
oh, it's so much better than they used to be. I remember the days when they first came clunk, 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 clunk. Didn't matter what you did, they were terrible. I was a full-time gilly in Scotland that time, and when they came out, and it used to, I think every gilly was the same. You were just waiting for it to catch on the eyes, and it never ever did, in fairness, because I think when you've got tension on the line, you're playing a fish, it pins it down and holds it in place. But dig, and so it's. But the loops nowadays are much neater, much smaller, and it's not a problem. You know, you're throwing that there with ease, and into the wind. We could turn around and go that way, no problem at all. But let's do it as if we were on the D or the spey or something like that. You know. The good thing about here at Sportfish, it is a fantastic facility, because what you can do is come down here and try out all the equipment, which is really, really good, because you go into different stores, you can wiggle a rod, but it's great to be able to come down here. You've got experts here that are testing all the tackle, and you can get out on the water. So it is a fantastic facility for that. And there you go. Looks like you've done that before, JT. I might have had the odd pointer in the past from one or two people. You know me. I don't spend my time chasing salmon. It's too cold.
Aye, well. I was fishing yesterday. I had a lovely fish in the River Roy in Scotland yesterday. I fished about £9. Some people will see it on Facebook if you follow me on Facebook.
I did indeed.
It was quite popular. It was about my 7th or 8th day out fishing, so I felt that I was slightly due it because I have been fishing some quite good water.
If you put the time in, you deserve some kind of reward.
I absolutely.
No, that's lovely on this, Scotty. It
So
really is.
yeah,
even with this wind, which is quite gusty and horrible times.
We're up against it a wee bit today with the wind. We are, but so we could go this way and cast there, and we'll throw the whole line out. You know, we could maybe even do that in a wee second. In fact, I'd go just take it all out just to show everyone. Do JT. So that's what we're doing at Mackenzie. It's we have got a lot of kit nowadays, like I say, from a 8'6" 3 weight, with matching lines for every rod. We're actually doing a lot of single handlers. I say more. Well, people are surprised when I said that a minute ago to JT. Was it surprised that we do more single handlers than double? But it's just the way the market has gone, and the way as a company we're going. Gee, well, that's the whole line.
It's not far off it.
It's just over 40 yards that line, so go for it.
Okay,
Plus leader,
there's
plus 10-foot poly tip, so you're on the...
Now you've put the pressure on.
Yeah. Now we've pulled all right, you won't be cast it.
It's a lot of line to
no
bring
pressure,
it's a lot of line
no pressure, nobody's watching, you're all right.
It's a lot of line to bring back in again, that's the thing. A little bit of overhang, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, just take your time with it. Yeah, it's a good cast, it's a good cast, a good cast.
Not far off.
Not far off it, not
just
far off
catching
it.
a little bit on
yeah, as soon as somebody throw a big cast, it makes it life a lot harder. But what you're seeing there is that line's shooting out easy, so you've got...
But you also have to bear in mind this is not a long head.
Oh
so
no, it's only 12
meters. A very long
well, you see how much rope you've got here.
Yeah,
I'm having to watch where I'm standing,
way.
there's that much line there. So yeah, absolutely.
You know, ordinarily if we wanted to get long distances, a longer head makes life an awful lot easier. So.
For distance of spay line, I still like my spay lines. I do, there you go, that's a good cast. Now look at that, there you go, well done buddy, well done. That's, well, what I didn't tell you was that you've got a long leader plus a 10-foot poly leader plus.
Okay, so that's... So,
so you have got... That's
probably about 45, 48
Oh, it's a long way. For a shooting head...
That's a hell of a long way.
On a 13'7" rod it is. So that shows you what it can do. It really can. And what you're seeing there too is effortless, right? And you're not taking a hop, a skip and a jump to try and get distance. And a lot of people... That's the main thing, you know, in casting. It's not the bigger you are, the stronger you are, the further you cast. It's really not. Some of the best casters I've ever walked and graced this planet have actually been on the smaller size rather than the bigger size. Well, I'm bragging it. There we go. We're twins. But it's true enough, you know, and people should be disappointed to hear this crazy Highlander with myself coming down from the Highlands, and you know, something like William Wallace, he thought I was going to be about 8 foot tall, you know, and I'd come one 5'10", he go, that can't be Scott Mackenzie, he's about 8 foot tall. But it's true, and I was against kind of casters from Norway,
big old boys, the Norwegians,
Knuts to start. Great caster, great guy in Trondheim.
Viking giants.
Absolutely, if you saw them coming, you thought, oh, you haven't got a chance. And don't get me wrong, fantastic guys in every shape or form, but they were beatable, and if it was about total strength you wouldn't be able to do that. And if we go back a wee bit of history lesson here, if you go back to where it almost all began, no one knows who invented spey casting. It was invented on the spey probably about the mid 1850s. That's what we kind of pinned it down to. But about the 1890s, there was a guy in Inverness, my hometown, called Alexander Grant, who set the first ever world record distance spey cast on the Ness in 1895, where he lifted and cast 65 yards. That's 195 feet.
And how long did that stand for until someone broke it?
Well, someone did break it. That was 110 years that stood for it, and in fairness, I broke it. But in also fairness, I had modern equipment. Grant made his own rod out of Greenheart, and he got his line made with the Harris tweed weavers. It was a woven silk line, and they had to grease the line to make it float.
Break it all up.
And he lifted the whole 195 foot and recast it and positioned it.
Incredible.
So, you know, I didn't make the rod. I did, okay, it's ready to be broken, and and because he was from Inverness and I'm from Inverness, and I've got a lot of respect for the guy, I was kind of glad in a way that was myself did break it. But you have to give Grant, and back then, the Victorian time, they were innovative generation, they really were. Imagine getting your own block of wood, he whittled it all down in lace, he fine-tuned it, and then tapered the line, got the lines woven, and because it was greased, it couldn't shoot any line like we're doing here now. He had to lift the whole 195 foot out of the water. Amazing feat to do that. But he was 5'7", slim build, and kept poor health. He was a small, frail man. Oh, here you go. The new Alexander Grant too.
Well, this has been fantastic, Scotty. Really enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it. It's actually 40 minutes, but it's going like that. What we're doing today is mainly talked about double-handed. Tomorrow we're going to do a reverse. We're going to do a wee bit in the double-handed, and then we'll go through more the single-handed rods that we're doing in a little bit more depth. So if there wasn't something we covered today, let us know in the feed. We'll do that, you know, we'll add that in.
We'll have a question, bit of interaction.
We'll have a little bit of interaction, and we'll cover more the single-handed stuff tomorrow as well. But guys, thanks very much for watching. I've enjoyed coming down here. Thanks very much, JT.
Pleasure as always,
it's
Scotty.
Great getting back to normal, getting life back to a little bit of normality. It really is. And but if you have any questions, please ask, and we're here to help. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. JT, care, buddy.
Let's get a cup of tea.
What a dram.